Welcome back to another episode on the Create mod, and today I'm in a creative testing world of my series where I build a bunch of cool stuff and play Create mod and survival. Today we're going over a Netherite mining machine that is built off of one from 3 years ago by Rocket14. I'll leave his link and YouTube channel in the video description. Makes cool stuff. This one is updated for 1.20 and 0.5.1.f. That's at least the versions that I'm playing in, and it'll likely work for your versions as well. I ran into a couple of issues that I fixed and thought it would be helpful to make a video on, because now it's almost impossible to die while riding this thing. Before, he didn't have this little enclosure that saved your life if lava came down, and now it should. You shouldn't be able to get hit by lava if it somehow breaks through this little barrier, and if I show you more specifically how this thing works, you'll find it quite interesting. So we have a little area here that netherack keeps getting placed in front of. That is because as the drills right here break the netherack in the way, these deployers place another row. And this is for when we're going through lava lakes like this, or like this one here, it will place blocks all the way along instead of filling the whole tunnel with lava. There are some situations where this doesn't work, which is why we need that death prevention chamber, but otherwise it's a really good system. Another thing that I updated is the powered rails needed to be powered. In his video 3 years ago, he just used normal rails, and the minecart continued with its momentum. But in a recent-ish update, when drills mine stuff with minecarts, they start to lose momentum after a certain period of time, and this makes it infinite. Another issue that, again, is about lava falling in sometimes, we need blocks of redstone here to power these rails. Redstone torches don't work. That would be preferred, but when lava comes, it just wipes away the redstone torches. And I did say this is infinite. There is a little asterisk to that. Obviously, chests are going to be the biggest problem. You're going to run out of storage eventually, but with this amount of storage, which isn't a stupid amount, like it's fairly reasonable, I was able to do one row of this pretty easily. And you can see my video on it where I AFK'd and talked about it more, but this thing goes on forever. I can't even load how far it goes. I think I AFK'd here for 6 hours going back and forth, and we have like 10 lanes. So you can do the math on what that number means in your brain, but yeah, that's what we're looking at. Even with this amount of storage, there's not too much resetting that needs to be done. So in this video, we're gonna go over how to build this thing, how to kind of run it in your world, because there is a little finicky bit that you have to set up when you're starting it for the first time. And then all you have to do is sit in here, flick down this trapdoor so lava can't get in, and then you're good. There will not be a block by block tutorial, but I will show you how to use the schematic and everything like that you can find in the video description. And if you really want to do the block by block tutorial with some of my modifications, you can follow Rocket's 14's video and then just add kind of this little bit and another deployer that places redstone blocks and a drill that breaks them. So with that, let's get started. To build this for the first time, I recommend doing it in the overworld. We're in my Create mod series. If you haven't seen it before, I recommend watching it. It's so great. We build a bunch of cool buildings, bunch of cool stuff. These are a bunch of spoilers, but for this, I recommend building it in the overworld so that you can fix it without mobs and other stuff hitting you and stuff. And also it's bad to build it underground for the first time because that's just kind of scary. So we're going to set up a schematic table. If you don't know what this is, it's pretty simple. You just load in a schematic. If you click the open folder button, you can drag the schematic that you downloaded from the link in the description into that folder, and then it'll appear in here once you click this refresh files button. Then we're going to go down to the Netherite mining. There we go. The Netherite mining machine. You're going to throw in an empty schematic and then click the check mark. This will load it in here, and then you should see this little box when you hold the schematic in your hand, and if you right click, you'll get this thing. Now, I recommend setting it up so that it's over a little bit of area here. And if we do that like this, you want it so that all the blocks are going to be above ground here, and then we should be good. In survival, we'll need to set up a schematic in, and then if you put the schematic in there, it'll disappear. This will say out of gunpowder, but if we throw in a bit of gunpowder, you don't need a stack. You can use it like 4, and then place the inventory with all of the items that we've gathered from this in here. We will be able to hit play here and start it. So when we do that, it'll start placing in all of the blocks here. And while this is building, let me talk about what is going on. I talked about it briefly, where these deployers place blocks in front of them and then the drills directly behind them break those blocks. That is still happening, and if you wanted to, you can increase the height or the width of this thing. It is currently exactly 2 chunks wide, and that is so that if something weird with unloading happens, this won't break. I know that's a problem in vanilla. I'm not sure if it is in the create mod, but I wanted to be safe. So we're keeping it 2 chunks wide. You can always increase it if you want. And while this thing is running, it's always important to, when you are done mining an area, to go back and look out for ancient debris, because this thing will get most of it, but there's always the chance that some on the ceiling or the floor will still be there. I use a resource pack that turns all ancient debris like a bright blue color that we can place, and it'll look like this. And that's been really helpful. I went back after not using this texture and found, I think, like 20 or so that I missed because it wasn't a super bright blue. So that's something I would recommend. Oh, and it's done, just so that you don't miss anything too drastic, or you can always increase the height, but it is really expensive. These deployers are not cheap. Now that this is done, I'm gonna just quickly check that all the glue is in place and looks correct. You wanna do this before running it because it's a pain to fix, and it looks like it is working. We can then place in a minecart on this rail here. It won't do anything yet because this cart assembler is not powered. And I honestly think we're good to go, other than the fact that we need some netherite in these chests and also some rails and redstone blocks. The redstone blocks are again used to power the rails, and the rails are used to move the minecart. That is the tutorial in my brain that just happened. Both of those are good and working. We now need to make sure that this minecart can actually travel any distance at all. So normally you would place this in kind of directly on the ground floor, and there would already be netherack right in front of this. We have to place these blocks in manually because there isn't for us. When we do that, we want to place in all the powered rails that we can and turn them on. This again will not turn on this powered rail, nor make the cart assembler have the minecart pick up all of this stuff and have it moving. So once we have this block in, it actually might be better to put it on the other side, just because this drill will mine it automatically and put it in. Once we have that in, we should be able to just place a block here, and then it will start going. So what's going to happen is it should just make a tunnel. Before you start this, I do want to note, you want to build this in a place where you're okay with netherack floating around, or you'll have to mine all the netherack. That doesn't take too long, but it is good to know. When we start it, you'll see that a bunch of these blocks are being placed in, and you'll notice that these glue things were not glued properly. All right, I fixed it and had to move it over here, but your schematic will be correct. Mine just wasn't for some reason. I don't really know what I did to fix it, but it did fix it. And now if we test it, place down those rails, get our redstone blocks that I ran out of. So when you start up the farm, you're gonna need to run and place in a block there, and then a powered rail on top of it, so that this thing actually works. So if we take 2 here, double place those, place in a block, and hopefully I got it in time that I actually don't need to place in a rail. I did. And it's because this is not properly placed. It was tilled soil for some reason, but that's what you have to do. You have to place in a block there and then separately place in a rail above that. Once this is working and it is correct, we're going to go into the nether. So you're just going to right click it with a wrench and it'll show up in your inventory as a minecart contraption. I really recommend just never breaking this because this is kind of a pain to rebuild and do all that if you build it incorrectly with the schematic. So if we go into the nether, and you can see some of the tests that I've done. We need to first dig down to Y level 13, because that's the Y level that is best for mining netherite. It's actually, you want the middle block here to be Y level 13. So if you hit F3 and you're standing on Y level 12, then that means you are good. Once you're down to Y level 12 at your F3 menu and the middle block is Y level 13, you're going to need to dig out a space. So as I mentioned, this thing is 2 chunks wide. What's the chunk button? It's 1 chunk wide. If we dig out a chunk that is 3 blocks tall here, 1, 2, 3, and then it doesn't have to be exactly 1 chunk wide on either direction, but I would build it 1 chunk wide and then quite a few blocks deep. When we place in the farm, I can show you exactly why and what is happening there. I would probably recommend setting up a chunk by chunk area. Mining netherrack does not take too long, and given how big this thing is, it's probably recommended. With F3 and G, you can show chunk borders if that helps. You want to go to the blue line here in the center, and then go one to the right of that, and then the blue line here, and then one forward of that. And that's where you're going to place in the cart assembler that will make your minecart contraption exist in the real world. You can turn on the minecart in two ways. You can either place it down while this is already powered, which I wouldn't recommend, but you can if you want to. I am instead going to place it down, have it spawn in everything, and you can see that that also means breaking the blocks down here. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll have to replace them. And once those are in, we can open up the chests, make sure we have enough netherite, netherack, and then place in these powered rails that are important, and then the block of redstone over here that powers those, and then we can start it. Remember, you're going to need netherack in your inventory and one more powered rail to place in the block where the deployers break the other things. So when we place this redstone block, it'll start moving, and you're going to want to place in a netherack block there. And then if you beat the deployer here that's placing the rails, you don't need to place another one. But if you don't beat it, you'll need to place one manually. This thing's already off. You can sit in here, flick this down, and it will work. You can't get hurt. You're stuck in a 1x1 little seat that you can get out of, which is great. And this thing is mining for you, blocking all of the lava so that you're not falling in. And it's fully working. And that's the mining machine. Thank you all so much for watching this. As I mentioned, the schematic and the ingredient list will be in the description. And let me know down in the comments if you have any other farms that you want me to build, and if you have any questions, and I will try to get back to you. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, and if you're not subscribed, do it. All right, peace.